When people talk about the future, they usually talk about it like it's something far away, something coming, something we'll all experience one day. But in Shenzhen, especially here in Nanshan District, the future doesn't feel far away at all. It feels normal. You see it in the buildings, you see it in the streets, you see it in the way people move, shop, eat, work, and live. I came here expecting to see impressive headquarters and tech giant company campuses. And yes, while I saw that, but what stayed with me the most is even something deeper. In Shenzhen, innovation is not just something companies talk about. It's something the city seems to practice. And as a founder, as someone building across global trade, procurement, and technology, walking through this place made me think differently about what it really means to build the future. So for this part of my China voyage, I found myself in Shenzhen. Now, Shenzhen is one of those cities that almost feels symbolic because this is not just a big Chinese city, this is a city that represents what can happen when ambition, policy, investment, and execution align. Before 1979, when Shenzhen was officially established as a city, the area consisted of quiet coastal villages whose economy relied mainly on fishing and rice farming. Then, it became China's first special economic zone in 1980, which helped transform it into one of the country's most important centers for manufacturing, technology, and innovation. Now, get this. When people talk about Shenzhen as China's Silicon Valley, a lot of that conversation points towards Nanshan District, where I'm currently visiting. This part of the city is mostly associated with a high-tech zone, innovation campuses, and some of China's best-known tech companies. The Shenzhen High-Tech Industrial Park was also approved in 1996 and became a major pillar of that growth. So naturally, I wanted to experience it for myself, not just from a business angle, not just from a tourist angle, but from the perspective of someone who is trying to understand how environments like this shape the future. The first thing that struck me was the atmosphere. There's a certain energy to Shenzhen. It feels clean, fast, intentional, and extremely modern. The city just doesn't feel wealthy, it feels engineered. Like people didn't just allow this place to grow randomly. It feels like it was built with a forward-looking mindset. The architecture is bold, the public spaces feel efficient, the flow of movement feels deliberate, and even before you start talking about the companies, the EVs, autonomous vehicles, robotics, or the drone delivery, the city itself already tells you something. This place takes development seriously. As a founder, that immediately gets my attention because one thing I'm always thinking about is this: what kind of environment helps ideas scale faster? Some places have talent, some places have capital, some places have markets, but when you find a place that has all three plus infrastructure, speed, ambition, things really get interesting. Of course, a huge part of the appeal of this district is the concentration of major technology companies. This part of Shenzhen is associated with major players in China's tech ecosystem, including Tencent. And Nanshan is also home to DJI's headquarters. Tencent lists its headquarters in Shenzhen, and DJI's headquarters is in Nanshan District. When you walk around here, you can feel the symbolism of that. Because these aren't just names. These companies represent platforms, systems, products, and tools that influence millions and in some cases, billions of people. So being physically present in an environment like this changes the way you think. For me, it reminds me that behind every app, every product, every platform, every convenience we enjoy, there is a real ecosystem that you can touch. The buildings, these teams, the supply chain. There are governments making policy choices. There are founders taking risks. There are engineers turning ideas into actual systems. And I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy traveling like this, because some things only make sense when you see them in context. Then you begin to understand that innovation is not just magic. It's really just organized effort. Now, this is where things got even more interesting for me, because what really made Shenzhen stand out was not just the presence of tech companies. It was seeing technology show up in daily life. That's the difference. You're not just in a city where innovation is being advertised, you're in a city where it is being deployed in real time. I saw drone delivery, I saw autonomous technology in public places. I rode in the autonomous car. I saw the kind of real-world implementation that makes you stop and think, wow, this is not just a concept. This is daily life. Shenzhen's Nanshan area has been part of pilot programs involving drone delivery, including food service around Nanshan Bay Park, and Pingshan, which is another part of Shenzhen, is notable for autonomous vehicles and unmanned logistic delivery vehicles. And in general, the wider city has just been pushing low altitude and smart city applications. And that really stayed with me because in many parts of the world, we talk about innovation in theory. We post about it, we debate it, we admire it from a distance. But here you can actually see what happens when innovation leaves the keynote presentation and enters the streets. And as someone who works in procurement and international business, I found that incredibly inspiring. Because at the end of the day, real progress is not just about invention. It's about adoption, it's about execution, it's about making something useful enough, practical enough, and scalable enough that ordinary people begin interacting with it naturally. That's when you know something is real. Another thing I appreciated about this experience was the lifestyle. I had the chance to eat local food, enjoy the shopping environment, walk through parks, and really absorb the human side of the city. And honestly, I think that part matters as well, because the real flex of a city is not just that it can build cutting-edge technology, it's that it can build an environment where people actually want to live, where innovation, commerce, culture, leisure, and everyday life can exist side by side. That balance, I think, is really important. Sometimes when people think about tech hubs, they imagine cold, sterile places that are all about productivity and nothing else. But what I experienced here felt more layered than that. There was movement, there's beauty, there was convenience, there was design, there was energy, and I think that's what makes places like this powerful. They don't just attract businesses, they attract people with ambition. And once you create an ecosystem where ambitious people want to gather, build, and stay, you create momentum. That's when cities become magnets. That's when they become more than locations, and they become platforms. As I walked through Shenzhen, I kept thinking about what this means for founders like me, especially founders from places like Canada, Nigeria, USA, Africa, etc., especially those trying to build across borders, those working in sectors like trade, logistics, procurement, infrastructure, and technology. And one thought kept coming back to me: the biggest lesson here is not just tech, it's execution. A lot of people admire successful ecosystems and assume the magic is in the ideas alone, but often the real magic is in the systems that allow those ideas to move. Policy, infrastructure, talent density, speed, supply chain, access to capital, a culture that represents building and rewards it. That is what turns ambition into reality. And I think that's one of the reasons China continues to fascinate me, because when you spend time here, especially in places like Shenzhen, you start to see how development is not just about talking big, it's about building big. It's about organizing society in a way that supports production, experimentation, iteration, and scale. For me personally, that is deeply relevant, because Go Buy Hub was born out of my belief that trade, procurement, and access can empower people, that global commerce can be a bridge, not just for products, but for opportunity. That mission is part of the larger founder journey I'm documenting publicly. And being in Shenzhen reminded me that ecosystems matter. Where you position yourself matters. What environments you expose yourself to matters. What standard of execution you normalize in your mind matters. Because once you see what is possible, your excuses start to shrink. So no, what impressed me the most about Shenzhen was not just that it had tech companies. It was that the city seems to understand something very important. The future is not built by imagination alone. It's built by infrastructure, systems, commercial discipline, and people willing to execute at scale. And that is why places like it are very important, because they challenge you, they force you to think bigger, they force you to ask the harder question about your own work, your ambition, and your standards. Are you building in a way that can scale? Are you close enough to the future you say you want? Are you learning from the environments that are already producing the outcomes you admire? For me, this visit was not just sightseeing, it was perspective, and sometimes That is one of the most valuable things travel can give you. Not just content, not just memories, but clear perspective. So that's my Shenzhen story for you. If you enjoyed this episode, I recommend that when you visit China, try to go explore Shenzhen. My theory about doing business with China is that it's not only a place to go for business, but it's also important to get into the other parts of China to get a feel of its culture, experience its people, and build a wider perspective of what this nation is all about. If you enjoyed this episode, stay with me on this China Voyage series because I'm taking you deeper into real business, culture, infrastructure, and behind the scene lessons I'm experiencing on ground. This is not just travel, this is research, this is perspective, this is a founder education in real time, and I'm bringing you with me. Like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me what you think. Let's share ideas in the comment section. What stood out to you the most? Was it the technology? Was it the city design? Or was it all the lessons behind it? I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.